Hi there, I'm Steve Johnson, chef owner of Rendezvous in Central Square in Cambridge, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to make a mixed summer berry shortcake dessert that we have on our current menu here at the restaurant. First thing I'm going to do is to prepare the shortcakes for baking. And I'm going to mix the dry ingredients in the recipe, 2 cups of flour, a 1/4 cup of sugar, a tablespoon of baking powder, and a 1/2 tablespoon of salt in the KitchenAid mixer with some chilled butter cubes. And we're going to mix this for about 30 to 60 seconds. And so by blending using the paddle attachment, the chilled butter cubes into the dry mixture here, we kind of shred those cubes of butter so that they become kind of like the size of peas, as you see in lots of cookbook recipes. And it also starts to smear a little bit, and that is what helps to make the flaky layers in the biscuit later on. Once we achieve that step, then I slowly add the heavy cream to this mixture until the dough starts to just come together. So as not to overtax the machine, once the dough starts to come together, then I stop and I finish the mixing by hand. Even though all of this is just taking place in the matter of a few short minutes, it's helpful to have everything chilled, especially the butter, so that it doesn't melt and start to smear into the rest of the dry ingredients, but rather remain in little butter pieces, and that will help us achieve that flaky biscuit later on. Now I'm going to finish mixing the dough by hand and put a little bit of flour on the board. And just quickly make sure that the dough comes together. By hand. And you can see that it's still kind of rough and crumbly, and you can see some of the flaky texture already here. Also, important factor, the heat, the temperature of your hands can affect the butter in the dough mixture as well, so as little handling with the hands as possible is preferable. So I try to do all of this really quickly. And so now I roll it out to the desired thickness, which is about 3/4 of an inch thick. And I'm going to cut the biscuits and put them onto the sheet pan. And because it's a little warm and sticky, it's helpful to dip the pastry cutter into the flour so that it's really dry and cuts through the dough a little bit more neatly. All right. So one last little thing that I do, I take a little of the heavy cream and put it on top of the biscuits, and then sprinkle some sugar on top of that before baking, and that gives me kind of a glossy, sugary top crust on these biscuits, which makes them look really even more appetizing and gives a little sugary crunch to the top. What's not to like about that? Okay, so now that the biscuits are prepared and ready to go, I'm going to do one last step, and that is I'm going to chill them for about 10 minutes, either in the fridge or in the freezer, to really set their shape so that when they go into the oven, they will hold that shape better and will also contribute to that flaky, nice biscuit when they come back out after baking. And so once they're properly chilled, we're going to take them back out and put them into a 350-degree oven for about 15 minutes until they are golden brown and ready to go. Okay, next step now is I'm going to prepare the berries for the final dish while the biscuits are baking in the oven. And seasonally, we roll with what's available with local farmers. And right now, early July, we still have some late strawberries, and we're mixing them with some fresh summer blueberries and some red raspberries. And then in a week or two, we're going to probably stop seeing local strawberries, and we're going to move into blackberries and etc., black raspberries like that. So what I do now is, after I've trimmed the strawberries, I mix the berries together and toss them with a little bit of sugar, lightly, but not too much, just to accentuate their sweetness. The other thing that this does is that it starts to make the berries a little juicy, and you get this really, while they're sitting for 10 minutes, waiting their turn, you get a little bit of a kind of a berry syrup that results, and that makes the dish even better. All right, so the next thing that we do here in preparation for the final dish is something that's a little bit unique to the way that we serve this berry shortcake at Rendezvous. Instead of whipping cream and building a shortcake that has layers of cake and berry and whipped cream and then more whipped cream on top, topped by a berry, we do it the way that my grandmothers did when I was a little boy in central Ohio, and that is we serve it with a puddle of sweetened heavy cream instead. It's a little less low tech, and it results in a little bit less of a fancy quasi-architectural dessert, but in its way, it's a very pleasing and satisfying way to go. So I just take a little bit of heavy cream. I add a little bit of sugar to taste. I don't want to make the whole thing super sweet, but just nicely so. And then I think that we're ready to go. Okay, here we go. We're ready for, now that the shortcakes have baked and they've gotten this nice golden color. You can see the little sugary crust that I was talking about. I've got my berries. They've had a chance to sit. You can give them one last little toss. Get them into the bowl. Nice generous portion. Good summer fun there. I'm going to nestle the shortcake right on top. And I'm going to drizzle this sweetened heavy cream around and over the berries so that they get that sweet creamy goodness. Sprinkle it with a little powdered sugar for looks. And I'm going to take some nice fresh mint from my rooftop herb garden to garnish. Okay, and there we go. Mixed summer berry shortcake with sweetened cream.